Hello, young historians. Welcome to Women in the Gilded Age. During this time, the push for women's rights was very important. Many women got college educations and wanted to use their new knowledge and skill for the common good.
Many women wanted to gain control of their lives, instead of men dictating their decisions. A large part of this was in controlling their sexual lives. In the 1870s, the Comstock laws outlawed the distribution of birth control information and devices in the mail. But in the 1900s, the early 1900s, Margaret Sanger started a National Birth Control League to continue to educate women on protected sex. These devices, such as condoms, and later birth control pills made in the 1960s, helped decline birth rates in the U.S. Not only were devices used, but it also started to become socially acceptable for women to remain abstinent and just say no.
Come on, baby.
No! Not only did women have access to contraceptives, but they also had the freedom to sleep with whoever they wanted whenever they wanted to, married or not. This was considered free love and was part of the new morality movement. Divorce rates started to rise as women gained more independence. This caused society to be less centered around family and also shrank family sizes.
Excuse my pug, she has some heavy breathing problems. Anyway, led by Susan B. Anthony, Lucy Stone, and Elizabeth Staton, and many other important women of America, NASA was the biggest voluntary organization in the U.S. NASA stands for National American Women's Suffrage Association. Starting in 1890, the organization started with a mere 7,000 members but grew all the way up to 2 million. Both men and women were involved in this organization. The goal was to make the individual states support the rights of women voting to eventually force the federal government to pass the amendment. They did this by participating and hosting suffrage parades and conventions to get their word out.
In an attempt to rid America of excessive drinking, the Women's Christian Temperance Union was formed. This was the first mass organization among women devoted to social reform. Women were very concerned about the destructive power of alcohol. Many of these women most likely had a drunk husband at home and believed alcohol caused many problems within their families and societies. This organization met in churches to pray and often marched the saloons to convince owners to shut down their establishments. Members of the Women's Christian Temperance Union were to be completely abstinent from all alcohol. Sorry.
Oh! You're ruining this family! What the heck, wife?
Women were also involved in public services such as immigrant affairs. The settlement house movement was a push to create settlement houses to house immigrants that had nowhere else to go. Women there taught American culture, including family-style cooking, and lessons in English. The first home was started in 1889 in Chicago called the Hull House and was founded by Jane Addams. By 1900, there were almost 100 settlements in the U.S. This was one of the first examples of social work in America.
In the turn of the century, women started to get recognized for their works in literature. More and more women got educated by attending school all the way through college. Kate Chopin has some very famous works published in the late 1800s. For example, The Awakening, one of my favorite books, was published in 1899. She also had some very famous short stories. An example of that is The Story of an Hour, which was published in 1894. And this is the collection of all of Emily Dickinson's most famous poems. They were published all the way through the 1890s to the early 1900s. Women Lit is my favorite.
The Gibson Girl was the picture of an ideal woman in the early 1900s. She portrayed a scene of beauty, self-confidence, athleticism, fashion, and manners. She is both remote yet still accessible, which made women mimic her and men admire her. Her image received recognition and admiration from the majority of the general public. The Gibson girls set a new standard for women and was even considered the new woman.